oh, great. And I'm in
Ah,
the
that's
studio,
perfect.
so why not?
Yeah. So are you real busy doing electrical work these days? Is that
Aye.
like, and is it because you love it and you just wouldn't want to do too much music? Just kind of keep,
Yeah,
yeah.
totally. Yeah, I've got my son to apprentice at the moment as well, and
Oh yeah.
working with him. He's 22 now, and working with Ryle is just it's a privilege. I feel a very lucky dad to be hanging out with my son, age 22.
That is
Uh,
pretty cool.
for yeah, for a lot of dads, I think that's kind of goodbye time.
Yeah.
And no, we're just having a ball. It's uh, it's been a real adventure in Orkney, setting up the business and contracting together. And contracting in Orkney has its quirks and interesting wee experiences, like doing jobs. There are many small islands in Orkney, and of
Yeah.
course, the people in the small islands, they don't always have an electrician available on
Mm.
island. So they need to get the guys in from mainland like ourselves from the bigger islands to come and stay for 2 weeks and do a rewire. So we've done
Mm.
some of that. We did a rewire in North Ronaldsay for a Knoxville-based violin maker whose father comes from North Ronaldsay, and he has
Really?
a yeah, and he's bought a button bend there. So he's going to be making violins. I think maybe. Well, I'm speculating here, but perhaps he's going to be making violins in North Ronaldsay as well. North Ronaldsay is the most remote of the Orkney Islands,
Yeah.
and was
You
lovely to stay on.
you like remote islands, don't you?
I do, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, I've had some adventures on different remote islands, and yeah, North Ronaldsay was just just the latest in a long line
Mm.
of uh, of wee islands that I've explored. Yeah,
I think
was
you mentioning getting your son to apprentice reminded me of I think I saw a picture that you'd shared a while ago, maybe of your van where you'd added "and son" or something like that to the
yeah.
logo. And it did make me wonder just for a moment because I wasn't sure if you were in Orkney or if you I knew you weren't on Ascension anymore, but it did make me wonder like I wonder if like the next thing to do when contracting in that part of the world is to then also get like a tugboat with your logo on it too, you know?
Well,
Or
that would have its merits. Yeah,
yeah.
uh-huh. That would have its merits, particularly say, if we were to be getting inquiries from Hoy and Flotta, which are fairly nearby, then to have like a little twin diesel or something,
Mm,
that would be a new way to do business in Orkney.
yeah.
Or we could have one in Kirkwall, and you could make your own hours on the smaller islands rather than having to rely on the ferry timetable.
Yeah.
So yeah, maybe if we can get enough, enough steam under enough steam up in the business, maybe we could get ourselves. That's what I would want. I would want one of these little twin diesel launches, and just go zooming off. Whether or not it's for the business, I want one of them anyway.
Yeah.
It would be really fun. It would be really fun to have something like that in Orkney.
Yeah,
And just set off.
one of the side benefits of having like business needs if you can make it so it's something that's also
Mm,
fun, why
exactly.
not?
Yeah, totally.
That's a
It
business expense.
has been fun though. Yeah, it's been quite an adventure. And our usual run, unless we're working in the village or on the island that we're on, North Ronald or South Ronaldsay, sorry, not North Ronaldsay, South Ronaldsay.
Hey,
We
I bet
are.
you're not the first one to have ever mixed them up. Don't worry about
Oh yeah, totally.
it.
But yeah, I mean, if we're working on mainland, then our commute is over the Churchill barriers, so it can be exciting sometimes because waves come right over them.
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
so we've had to hose the van down a few times, but
Wow.
it's also pretty spectacular.
Yeah. Is there? I wonder. I didn't mean. I don't mean necessarily. I'm sure that listeners are like, get on to the bagpipes, right? But I can't help but keep being
Yeah,
curious. Like, as an electrician in a wet place like that, man. I
yeah,
mean, like, I live in a really dry place myself, and not an
yeah.
electrician, but I work with a lot of electricians. Is corrosion just like a constant thing there? Like, is your van? Do you have to
Oh, the
worry about
van.
leaving stuff out in the van too? Like, stuff will get
Yeah.
ruined if you leave it out there. Dehumidifiers
Well,
everywhere.
we have to. It's not quite as humid as that, but we do have
Mm,
to make sure we hose the van down because it gets hit by salt a lot.
yeah.
And you're always very near the coast in Orkney. And when we're on the barriers, we're on just a sort of single carriageway, 2-lane road. that has no breathing room at all,
Mm.
and is directly beside the sea, virtually at sea level. Maybe a few meters either side at high tide, a couple of meters either side, if it's a really high tide. And if the waves decide to start coming in, then yeah, you can take a wave broadside.
Mm.
Uh,
That's gotta
so
be stressful.
yeah, they get closed if it's really bad, but
Mm.
you can get fairly thoroughly washed with salt water, and that does it does take a toll on vehicles.
Yeah. On those
Uh,
ones, do they control traffic going one direction versus the other so you don't end up nose to nose halfway out in the water?
no, they do have two lane.
Ah, gotcha.
So, but because they're very narrow, people who are not used to driving on them and not, you'll get people coming up for a holiday or something, and sometimes they've come from somewhere further south where they're not even used to single track roads or narrow roads or passing places, and so you sometimes see people driving down the middle of them,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
down the white line, because they're frightened to get too close to the bollards either side. But there is
Yeah.
actually, you can have a lorry going. Uh, I'm pretty sure if it's a large vehicle like a lorry or a bus, then they tend to wait for each other at one end. But if it's,
Mm.
I can pass a bus on it. A normal vehicle can pass a bus on it, a car.
Mm.
Although some people will wait if the bus is on the bridge, is on the
Mm.
barrier. They'll wait until it crosses because it wasn't really built with modern, like uh, standards. It was built during the war,
Mm.
and it was a bit of an excuse because what they needed a submarine defense down the eastern side of Scapa Flow. And the available labor they had to build it was prisoners of war, so they couldn't make it a war thing under the
Mm.
Geneva Convention. So they put roads on it and made it into a civil project.
Oh, so
Um,
it's
yeah,
submarine defense with a road
yeah.
on top.
Well, the road on top takes use it, yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. So there's talk every now and again in the local paper about whether these barriers should be upgraded or how to
Mm.
improve the wave defenses and all this kind of thing, because there is a developing problem beside one of them where sand is building up and the waves are getting over
Mm.
more easily. But the end game of that is that the sand will just build up completely to that side of the barrier, they reckon, and then
Mm.
the waves will not be there anymore.
Mm.
Uh, yeah, aye, quite an interesting commute that.
Yeah, I had a friend who I don't know, you might have even seen he's got some great videos on social media and stuff playing small pipes and singing, John Charles, who went to Uist. I
Yeah,
can't say that word, man. Every time I think I'm gonna
I,
say it, I'm like, nope, I sound like an idiot. But you know the place I'm talking about.
I do. Yeah.
he he was there not long ago, and he left myself and another friend. He left us a couple voicemails where he was walking to and from this. I think the idea was Gaelic song is what he was there for. But he's walking back and forth along these single track roads, and sometimes catching a little hitchhike, a little ride to or from somewhere, and just kind of like just talking, just as he's talking to us, we can hear not just the wind of the island all the time, but the cars whizzing by on those narrow roads, right?
I'm going to check with Nick if it's all right if I keep doing this in here.
Oh yeah, no problem.
Come back into the studio.
Yeah, for sure.
I'll be back in a bit.
No
Um,
problem.
the dogs have come to see me as well.
Yeah.
Carry on, James. Sorry.
Well, so I one thing I was just curious generally about is if you were if are you Orkney permanent forever now? Do you know for
Well,
certain going back to
for the
Ascension?
foreseeable. Well, I mean, we've talked about that because who wouldn't talk about that?
Yeah.
Or being in, being in a perpetual July. And it's some island, by the way. There's never any storms there. There's never any
Mm.
storms. There's barely any rain. Every now and again, there's a day of heavy, warm rain, but that's like every maybe year or two.
Wow.
And you can grow vegetables all year, which these are the things that matter to me. You can go fishing. The fishing seasons all year. The shore fish are bigger than your head, and
This is how a lot of people
yeah,
describe heaven, exactly.
yeah,
Like, in
exactly.
fact,
Yeah,
I think
you can
I
have your
remember
own
in the
bananas.
I think it's in
Yeah.
I think it's in the Odyssey that Odysseus talks about going to a place where it's like it's just harvest
Mm.
after harvest and vintage after vintage, and you know, like it
Yeah.
just never stops. Maybe he was talking about Ascension Island.
He could have been there. Yeah, he could have been there. Bananas anytime you want. You can pick
Yeah.
bananas any time of the year on the mountain. And for about half the year you can pick all the guavas you want. There's an
Hmm.
absolute abundance of guavas. So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean I think well, who wouldn't talk about going back? You can swim in rock pools. You daren't really swim in the sea because it's infested. It's infested with thousands of sharks.
Good
Most of
heavens. Yeah, that
yeah.
well, that put
So
a damper on
but
it.
yeah.
Suddenly I'm
Uh,
imagining being there with all my kids and just being like, no, they can't go
yeah.
outside.
No, it is the land is pretty safe apart from the rubble and the kind of slidiness of the rubble and the grit. There's no animals on land that would do any harm to you, really. Maybe the donkeys might headbutt you or something or kick
Mm,
you. But the sea has thousands of sharks. Some of them
mm.
quite dangerous sharks, like tiger sharks and things, and moray eels everywhere. So if the sharks don't get you, the moray eels will try.
My goodness.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds
But
terrifying.
it's full of good fish. So if you like
Mm,
fishing, quite a place. They're
mm,
enormous. My favorite to go after was the groupers,
mm,
because they are probably, to me, they're the tastiest on the island. I do like tuna, and you can get tuna.
mm,
And tuna's huge as well. But the groupers are the main kind of they're the main rockfish that hides in the rocks. There
mm.
are a few wee rockfish as well, rock bullseye as well. That's a wee bit smaller, and some people prefer that and say that's a tastier fish. It's a smaller
Mm,
fish, but I would celebrate the grouper.
mm.
I really enjoyed that.
Well, what about where you are now in Orkney? Is there good fishing, but also have you
Oh
found
yeah,
any wildlife to record audio from?
no, not yet. No, I haven't
Mm,
gone around to do anything like that, but I did a lot of that in Ascension. But I've done a bit of fishing in Orkney. There's more of a season to shore fishing, obviously. And when it's on, it's on. It was we caught some. The last bit of shore fishing I did towards the end of the season was right in the village. The mackerel were all running around the shore in the village. And it was basically you could put your hand in and caught them, but I just kind of dropped in some feathers and bang bang, caught them, load them, and
some
they are
feathers did it, huh?
yeah, they're very
Huh.
tasty fish. Mackerel are great.
Mm,
They're really good here, fresh mackerel. But yeah, there's a variety of fish, and for those that have a boat, which I've not got here yet, you can fish. You can have a longer season,
mm,
um, and growing as well. I mean, it's not as easy to grow, say, cucumbers and things like that as it was in Ascension. But we're experimenting a wee bit with growing, and we've got a little sunroom, and I'm in the process of repairing a greenhouse. And we've actually got a wee lemon tree in the sunroom, so we're still managing to grow some tropical sort of fruits,
mm.
even though we're in Orkney. We've
A little
had
taste of
winter,
Ascension brought with
yeah,
you, huh?
totally winter Orkney lemon.
Yeah.
Um, it's we had a toddy on Christmas Day made with an Orkney grown lemon.
That's
That was
pretty
pretty
cool.
funny. Yeah, that was cool. And my wife's been experimenting with cheesecake made from it as well, so that's fun.
Uh,
But yeah,
well,
fishing is good. Yeah, it is good. It's not quite this, not the same sort. Fishing and Ascensions are much more kind of, you know, some of the things that come out of there are the size of you.
yeah.
Uh, so it's kind of eye to eye. It's a bit more kind of brutal at times. But yeah, fishing is good in Orkney. I've enjoyed it.
Mm. Well, Donald, I feel like I know enough of your personality from your from reading things from you online and stuff like that too to know that you're not going to be the kind of person who would be in any way like have a big ego and be like offended by me not knowing everything about every project you've ever
Not at
done.
all.
At
Yeah,
the same time though, Donald, every
most of them are
time
here.
well, but so cool too, you know. But also every time last time we talked, and I was doing some prep work then, and as I was prepping for this one as well, every time I go looking for like, because when I have a guest on who's done projects, I like to read up about the projects, you know, so there's stuff to talk about. Every time, Donald, I don't reach the bottom of the barrel. Like
Yeah.
I go, oh, he's done this. Oh, he's done that. What is that about? This time it was the soundtrack for the film My Old School. That one
Oh
took me
yeah.
down such a rabbit hole, man. That
Yeah.
my whole week. That's all. I've never heard this story before.
Yeah.
I didn't know about this. Was it Brian McKinnon?
Brian McKinnon. There were two of them. So my good friend Brian McKinnon, who's the same age as me, was also in our class. And his real name is Brian McKinnon, the fraudster. And so he had to
Oh,
stay.
right, but he went by Brandon Lee. Is that what it
Yeah.
was?
He
Yeah,
went by
that's
Brandon.
right.
And so he apparently had a nervous moment on the first day when the teacher called out Brian McKinnon for the register. But
Oh, yeah.
yeah, that was my good friend Brian, who now lives in Boston.
Huh.
Uh, and he was in the film as well. Brian, young Brian, we'll call him,
Yeah.
was in the film as well. Was interviewed. And yeah, did you watch the film?
I haven't been able to watch the film yet. I didn't find a good place to watch it. I should look a little harder. Mostly I was just reading about like the news stories when the news broke and stuff. That's where I went to
Well,
after reading about your project.
I'm going to get my tuppence worth in now. So that Brandon Lee guy comes out with some story about nose picking, alleged nose picking. And all I'm going to say about that is that the whole film is about how you can't trust a word that comes out of that guy's mouth. So there you go.
Ah. Well, there you go. Yeah. No, but I'd never even heard the story before. It's just wild. And so you not only did you do the soundtrack, some of the work on the soundtrack for that film, but like
Yeah.
you were in the store, like you were there.
Yep, I was there. I
That's
was
wild, man.
Yeah, I sat beside him in physics.
Man.
Yeah, 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 yeah. He's he's full of nonsense.
That is just crazy. Did you ever suspect? Did you ever think to yourself like this
At
kid's
first,
not
we
a
all
kid?
thought. At
Yeah.
first, we all thought, "Wait, does look quite, a bit older."
Yeah.
But he was very baby faced,
Hmm.
and he had a story about having dry skin or something. Because
Hmm.
despite being baby faced, he didn't have kind of, he could have been more fortunate in terms of, that he definitely did have like the sort of skin complexion of
Hmm.
a 30-year-old man.
Yeah.
So he wasn't quite that baby faced, because there are those and those who are out there.
Hmm.
You can imagine even getting away with it on that basis.
Sure. Sure. Yeah.
So but he was youthful, and so
Mm.
he got away with it on that basis. Because by the time you're 17 or wherever we were, everybody has reached usually their full height, or most of the
Sure.
guys have
Yeah.
full height, and so
And
it
there
really
are
comes
some
down.
among you who do look like they could be 30, absolutely, by then
Yeah,
too. That does happen.
there are already
Yeah.
boys that have kind of matured more quickly. So
Hmm.
it is more confusing at that age, and he's also he talks a good game.
Hmm. Well,
Yeah,
that's one wild project, but it's one among so many. The
yeah,
other day, for Christmas, we got my oldest son a breadboard, and just like some little computer projects to make lights flash and stuff like that. Kind
yeah.
of get started playing with it. And that made
That's
me
good.
think of your wild chanter, your optical chanter with all the cords around, and the breadboard
Yeah.
there and everything. And I'm just thinking, like, man, how would you define yourself, Donald? Like, if you had to tell me, like, hi, I'm Donald Lindsay. Here's what I do.
Yeah.
I mean, as of today, how would you describe that? Because I'm sure it's going to change in a couple weeks.
No idea. Yeah,
What?
Bob, can I think of an answer to that question?
Yeah, you
Yeah,
go ahead and take some time to think about that. Maybe a way to
yeah,
work our way toward it though would be,
yep.
what are you most invested in today? What project are you like most drilled into right now today?
Right. Well, I mean, front and center right now is all about family life in the electrical business.
Beautiful.
My son's apprenticeship, renovating a house that we've got in Orkney, which we don't live in yet, and just all of that, and settling into island life with my family. Other than that, what am I most invested in right now? What been most invested in over the winter is making recordings. So we did about 91 minutes, so we think it's going to be a double album, and it's all songs. We did do 2 pipe tunes, but we weren't very focused on pipes for this one. So it's all songs, 5 original songs, 2 of which I wrote in Ascension, some a load of traditional songs, and so that record is going to be all about songs, and it's
Hmm.
with Rue Geddes. Alistair and me have just finished doing a record in Green Door Studios. We've been touring together a couple of times over the
Oh yeah, I
autumn.
saw some videos from your tour, and there's some lovely
Yeah.
stuff coming out of there. I bet that's going to be a great album.
Well, that one has got more pipes on it.
Oh, does it?
There was more immediately interesting from the point of view of the pipes. The majority of piping on that album is accompanying songs. So I'm accompanying myself while singing, and I'm accompanying Alistair while he's singing. And then we do 2 instrumental sets, I think we do. We don't do much in the way of instrumentals. And the third recording project that I've done recently, and none of these are released yet, is that I've, over the course of the summer and the autumn, I've been making visits to record with Owen Tierney in Attic Records in Orkney. And that's a solo record, and again, folk songs. And that's much more traditional, I would say, even than the stuff me and Alistair are doing. But it's if anything, there are similarities. I mean, there's traditional ballads in all these records. But that's the most kind of niche, if you like. I think it's got some rare versions of ballads that that I haven't heard recorded elsewhere. But it's got some better known stuff as well in it. And all of those, what are we going to do with them? So the one with Alistair is going to come out during the summer, probably late summer, before we go on tour again, because we're going to do a gig at Celtic Connections at the end of next week. And then we're going to play in Fife the following day in Cambo House. And after that, we won't play again until October when we're touring. So we won't play live again until then. And that record that we made this week isn't going to come out until just before that tour. The record that I made in here in December with Rúra Geddes is going to come out as soon as I can organize that. So that'll be coming out probably in the spring, hopefully.
And that's the one that you said was all live, like a 90-minute straight shot kind of thing.
I think we recorded a total of 91 minutes, and I do like all of it. So if I do all of it, it'll have to be a double CD.
Bring it on.
Yeah. And the one with Alistair, I think we did about 14 tracks, but I think we're going to cherry pick that because we've recorded in Glasgow, we recorded direct to tape, and we're going to try and get an analog tape master and make a vinyl out of that one. We're also going to make a CD. The CD will be slightly longer and will obviously have been digitized, whereas the vinyl is going to be hopefully from a tape master. And that was something that we're kind of working on just now. But there are going to be a couple of videos coming off of that. One of which is the song Peggy Gordon with us on guitar and singing, and the other which Alistair's singing a ballad, Jock Hawk's Welcome to Glasgow. And I'm playing the pipes along with that in E minor on an A chanter. I've got the tuning screws now on all the holes, and so I rebalanced the chanter to an EB drone configuration. So took up the F sharps and the C sharp, took them up so that they were pitched for the EB drone config. And that sounded, I really enjoyed that one. I'm looking forward to hearing that. Hopefully the videos for those might even be ready next week. We're hoping to put them out before we play Celtic. And we'll see. Martin Forey did the filming yesterday. So he's going to try and cut that. He did it live. We recorded them live, and he filmed us with one fixed camera and one camera in his hand. So hopefully that'll be out fairly soon. The stuff with Owen is going to remain fairly relatively obscure. I'm thinking probably I will put that on a vinyl as well, and not release that one. The other two will be released online in some form. The songs that I've recorded with Owen, I'm hoping just to put them on a vinyl and not release them online, and just have the record shop in Orkney. So that'll be hard to find.
That's cool. I mean, I respect that, Donald. There's part of me. It's like, hey, come on.
Yeah,
I want to hear it, but I respect it.
I'll give you the address of the record shop.
Deal. That's good enough. So I'll get over there. Yeah. But like, to that point, before I forget to bring it up, because it's happened to me before that I get through a whole interview and I forget to bring it up. Is there a central place that people should be looking as these projects are coming up so that they know, when a thing is available? Is it the website, the Facebook page? Like, what's the best place?
The website, I'm pretty good now. I'm getting better at keeping the website up to date and the discography fairly up to date. I think it does have the most recent thing that I did, which was the 4-track EP that we
Mm-hmm.
released in September, which also was um, vinyl only and just a short run.
Oh, with Alistair, right?
Yeah, that was
Yeah,
the
I see it.
answer. And that came out on Sonido Polyphonico, which is a guy, Paul Cross, runs this label from in Sheffield and does short runs of lathe cut vinyl. So
Mm,
very much in keeping with,
wow.
the kind of thing that the approach I'm taking to the other recording that I was talking about. But the best place probably to get kind of advance warning of things is probably always going to be at the moment my Facebook, because I do tend just to put little mentions onto that. I'm trying to use Instagram more because I find a lot more people use it and find it easier to use maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, a lot of people seem to pick up on things. If I do the tiniest post on Instagram, I seem to get a lot more
Mm, mm,
Facebook and Instagram. And if you use Instagram, I'll try and use Instagram more. So hopefully that will be busier. I certainly put something on that today about the studio engineer from this week. Sam had posted a video clip of one of the songs that we'd done, and I've shared that.
yeah. That was the
Yes,
reel to reel thing, right?
yeah. For
Yeah, I saw that video. Very cool.
Yeah, for pipers as well, something to know, for anybody who's interested in the whole chanter Lindsay system thing. Basically, so apart from the stuff that Ali and me have done, I've got a kind of a what would you say, a kind of a outline of a plan that I'm working towards, which is that now that I've finished recording with Owen with the songs, and now that we've done the recording, Rue and me have done the recording in here in December as well. I'm intending to work towards next winter, probably starting in summer, like I did with the songs with Owen, recording solos with Owen, hopefully in Attic,
Mm,
which he's just quite happy just to keep on. We do things like 1 and 2 at a time there,
mm,
um, and then in the winter at some point to hopefully come in again to watercolor and do some tunes on the pipes with Rue as well. So like maybe it's a little bit fussy of me, but this year I'm doing everything with songs, and next year I'm planning to do a whole load of instrumental stuff.
mm,
So a solo record and a record in ensemble, or at least with Rudy,
mm.
uh, would be great. That's some of the things I've got planned. Um, and no doubt Alistair and me will be recording again. I'm certainly hoping that we might put something together annually. Um, we're planning on being regular, maybe in the autumn touring.
Mm.
Yeah, I mean, it's like you say, with having the business on the go and everything. I was away a lot this autumn just because this is the first time that I had, really gone out on the road properly. I've
Mm-hmm.
done this and that over the years, but I've never really done block touring like that.
Yeah.
And so that kind of got off to a flying start. And what with that and all the recordings that I've done, I feel like I've been away as much as I've been in Orkney this autumn.
Mm.
So from February onwards, it's really back to Orkney and back to zooming about in the van and doing all that stuff. And I'm kind of wanting to keep the music, happening, but not too much, uh,
Mm.
because I don't want it to kind of derail everything else in my life. It's too much
Sure, that
fun.
makes
Too
sense.
much fun. Very easy for that to happen. But yeah.
Donald,
Um,
is it unfair for me to just completely give into this? I'm feeling more and more all the time like this desire to just be like, I'm going to model my entire life after Donald Lindsay's. Like some of these things that you're describing just sound like, it sounds like such a good idea, and like it sounds like you have like some control over like being like, you know what?
yeah,
I'm going to do this year. I'll do that next year. And I
yeah.
feel like for me personally, I'm so often just like frazzled, just like trying to chase 7 different things at the same time in the same minute, you know? Um, Geez, maybe I need
I
some of that island life. I need to move to
yeah.
Ascension for a year or something, huh?
that certainly helped. I think that was probably the gear shift, because yeah,
Mm.
absolutely. I mean, I've had my days of running around frazzled doing lots of different things, and moving to Ascension, it's like down there. It at first when you get there, it's a bit crazy because, like any island, the usual suspects will home in on the new arrivals and try and nurse. It's a small town, basically.
Mm-hmm.
But once you've endured your time of that, and they've moved on to the next person, then and obviously with me bringing my bagpipes, I was a very easy target for this.
Sure,
Uh,
yeah.
it was a bit boring for a while, but it passed over. And once you get used to the place, it's like doing the same day over and over again. And that might sound terrible, but it's in the best possible way. You
Mm.
know, once you learn to do it properly, it's exactly what you make at that place.
Mm.
And it is like doing the same sunny, I would think of it as a kind of July day over and
Mm.
over again. And once we got that into our heads, we were like, okay, so why do we even have to eat in the house? We know it's going to be sunny. So let's have a picnic today. And then that becomes, let's have a picnic every day.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
then that becomes, let's have a breakfast picnic. Because the
Let's
sun
never
comes
go
up.
inside again.
Exactly. Yeah, let's just go in our shorts the whole time. And
Yeah.
sun comes up at 6 and you get golden hour for an hour. And it goes down about 6 or 7 and you get golden hour for an hour. And
Mm.
so what are we going to do? We're going to go somewhere for golden hour, sit near the beach or on the beach, have a picnic. There's this lovely place called Turtle Ponds where all these baby fish are swimming all the time. So like little five fingers fish,
Mm.
little tiny red fish, and you can dip your toes in the water and they sit and they nibble your toes. And you know, and you just kind of get really good at doing this one day over and over. And there's a
Mm.
little outdoor pool in the village, and there are walks in the sort of the forests on the mountain where you can get your bananas, and you get really good at doing this loop over and over and over. And you know, I mean, we really had it good though because my wife's office, because she was the island social worker, was 2 minutes walk from the house, and was the
Mm.
only government office in our village, which is the village halfway up the mountain in the middle of the island. Basically, it's the sleepy village of the island. They said to her,
Of
"Oh,
the two,
yeah,
of the places on Ascension that are quiet, this is the quietest one.
this is the quietest one, exactly." There's yeah, there's a wild side to Georgetown because that's where some of the younger conservation interns
Mm.
are. So they like to have their parties, and sometimes you can hear you hear the sort of the very small amount of noise that that creates.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, they said to her, "Oh, do you want an office in the main government building in Georgetown?" And she was like, no, no, it's fine. Don't worry. Don't put yourself to any trouble." Because
Yeah.
she had this great little, so it had like a little tiny sitting room there for meetings and stuff, and a little office, and I could just sort of shamble along and hang out in this little sitting room and have tea and biscuits. And there was a sheep that used to sit out the door. There are feral sheep all over the island, and there was this sheep that just used to sit outside her office all the time and kind of look in the door and stuff.
Hmm.
Just very, yeah, it was like that. It was definitely. I think it was the gear shift that
Hmm.
you know that we're still kind of working with now. And yeah, it certainly, as well, being out there and going out there with the family, it just puts family like right in the center of everything, which was really welcome.
Hmm.
Really good because you know you just always have the time to go and do stuff, and nothing's very far away.
This is maybe just like yet another. I tend to have many existential crises in public rather often. And that's maybe part of what's making me feel this like I just want to be like Donald is that like my oldest kid is about to turn 13 and I'm just
Oh
feeling
wow!
this panic, that it's like it's almost over, like and so I'm
Yeah,
thinking, I'm sure there's part of this like, oh, I could work with my son in his 20s. Now there we go. Then I
yeah,
extend the time with him a bit, that kind of
yeah.
thing.
Yeah, that's right, and kind of you know, and or you know, Orkney is bigger and busier. Feels like to us, having been in so
Hmm.
long. Had we come up there direct from Glasgow, it would have seemed like a real kind of downshift in sort of
Sure.
one much very relaxed compared to Glasgow. But coming from Ascension, mainland in Orkney certainly seems you know much more bustling kind of happening. But it does still have that kind of everything's within arm's reach. And so,
Mm.
we're working our way around the mainland doing jobs for people. And we're kind of at the same time, we're working our way around the cafes of Orkney and working at which ones are good.
Also
Um,
important. Yeah.
so yeah, I mean, it does still have that kind of that, which I think, I think it is, so easy to get your attention, taken up with so many different things. And
Mm.
I think I was in that kind of zone before we went to Ascension, where I'd be nipping over to Edinburgh some nights to teach, and this is great because I'm very social, and I like to be doing things like that and be involved in lots of different things. I was teaching over there. I was teaching in the piping college. I was contracting during the day with my dad at that point. And just, yeah. And everybody going to school in different places, our youngest at nursery, our daughter was at primary school in Shawlands, our son at that point was in secondary school. And, Hannah was working in further over in the south side, and I was working all over the city. And so very typical, very typical life, very busy life. And then all of a sudden we found ourselves in this place where everything, there is just one space really, and everything
Mm.
in this one place. And once you get into that, it was quite an experience.
Hmm.
It,
I mean, part of this is, of course, like I was talking about when we first started talking, like like the things that get to me go through so many filters. So like a lot of this might be my perception of what your work is, and it might not be accurate, but it feels to me like as a consumer of the art that you're producing, that you're exploding with projects right now. There's tons of stuff happening, and yet when talking to you, it sounds like you found a kind of like quieter, kind of chill kind of way of going about life, and it does make me think about this, like, what's the word, paradoxical thing
yeah.
that Kenny Werner brings up in I just did an episode with my friend Swan about the book, and I can't remember what it's called. Effortless Mastery. He's a jazz pianist, and he's talking about like kind of how to take the work out of music and stuff like that. And he talks about how, like, if you can let go of the pressure to create,
Mhm.
you'll create, kind of thing, right? Like, so I don't know. I don't want to put you in a box or force you to have this opinion or anything, Donald, but it's just striking me as, at least from the outside looking in, something possibly similar, that it's like, well, if I wanted to get a bunch of projects done, right, I might focus on those projects and struggle to get it done. But if I put my focus somewhere else, maybe creative projects would just flow in a natural way. I don't know.
That's possibly part of it. Yeah.
Hmm.
Um, there is also something though about, and this is again, it comes back to this Ascension trip, that taking the whole thing completely out of context to a place where it had almost no audience at first at all.
Hmm.
By the end of the time we were there, I was able to organize what Hannah and me called songs and cake, because she's quite good at baking.
Oh, that
Uh,
sounds awesome.
yeah, and we did this in the library, and we did it
Hmm.
at Turtle Ponds, I think it was. I can't remember. I'm trying to remember where else we did songs and cake, no, it was at Two Boats Club, which is
Hmm.
basically Two Boats Club is basically a bar on a long balcony, which has
Hmm.
this stunning view. You're halfway up the mountain, so you're maybe about 1,000. It must be about a few hundred feet up anyway. And this balcony, this veranda of this long sort of concrete bit where all the tables are, looks down over all the desert to the ocean. And so I love Two Boats Club, and it has a little stage at one end, which is like a little, actually, acoustic sort of box of a stage. So we did songs and cake there, and we did songs and cake in the community library then in Georgetown. And so by the end of it, yeah, there was this little knot of people who had found out that they liked this and would come along and
Hmm.
listen to a bit of small pipes and a bit of. And the other thing that we did towards the end was, so I pieced together. So I just completely thought outside the box about it while I was there, because I thought, well, it's a completely different environment. So I tried to write music that was completely untethered, if you like. And
Hmm.
I've still got an album's worth of recordings done in Mariel in 2021 in Shetland, in Lerwick, in the studio in Mariel, at the end of a short tour that I did in Orkney in Shetland in 2021 on a break from Ascension. And those pieces, none of them they're all just original compositions, and they're all completely outside the box. And they went along with um, an edited 50 minutes of home video from Ascension,
Hmm.
with all cut into what I thought of as music videos, really, about 5 minutes long or thereabouts each. They tended to blend into each other, just sort of segue into each other, and they tended to be pretty abstract and and sort of meandering. And the tunes are kind of meandering as well, quite melodic, but they're quite meandering as well.
Hmm.
And I'm kind of sitting on that. It's very good. I like it a lot, but I don't want to release it first. I want to make, pardon me, I want to make these recordings that I talked about. I want to make something very kind of gritty, with Owen, kind of an attempt at doing a kind of a drones and the chanters of the Lindsay system chanter,
Hmm.
which is a long shot, because obviously that is something coming out of a long tradition there, whereas I'm building on only 10 years of having been messing around with this wee chanter, and on the couple of decades before that of having dreamed about a chanter like this. But I think I can do something really fun and interesting and
Hmm.
very varied as well, with all different types of pipe music and very kind of raw and solo. And I would like to do that first and just get those traditional tunes that I've been messing around with to the point where I'm finally ready to commit to making a recording of them.
Hmm.
Not overanalyze them and just let them kind of breathe. Um, and then to do something with Rue as well, which would go into a completely different space, would be great. But then after that, I'm definitely going to release this Muriel thing, which is the kind of upshot of Ascension. Um, and it went with this film, and we even got the chance to show that on Ascension, because the American base, as luck would have it, has an open air cinema with a great big concrete breeze block wall that they built and plastered and whitewashed, and
Hmm.
all these benches. And when we arrived, the American base commander was a guy, Vincent Bongiovanni, who went by the name of Major B, because he said that his guys had trouble pronouncing his Italian second name. Um,
Sure.
but he is a lovely guy, and quite kind of social and into the idea of, you can just rock up to them base there. They know who everybody is on the island, so you can go to the burger bar and so on. They banned the Brits from their shop though, because I think the Brits were buying all their booze. Uh,
Oh.
so they don't they can't go. That's the only place you can't go.
Yeah.
Um, so we went to the burger bar and the cinema. The opening cinema is right behind the burger bar, and Vinny he's very into he is very into Studio Ghibli. So
Oh,
he
sure.
started
Yeah.
showing Totoro and Ponyo and all the upside down one, and all these brilliant films out under the stars at night in Ascension. So we got hooked on the outside cinema. And by the time we got to the third year, so we'd had two other guys in who were running the base. Um, both of whom were quite friendly guys as well. And the second guy who was in continued what Vinny was doing, but showed nature films,
Hmm.
which was cool as well. And then the final year we were there, the third guy, I spoke to him and I said, could we show this film in the open air cinema? Yeah, sure. So he sorted it out for us. And we showed this 50 minutes, which is mostly set on Ascension. And I sat there with the smallpipes and played the soundtrack for it all.
Oh, so you played the soundtrack live while the
Yeah,
video played? Oh,
exactly.
very cool. Yeah.
I did that in Orkney and Shetland as well, but this was after
Hmm.
I'd done that in Orkney and Shetland. This was in our last year on Ascension. Uh,
Hmm.
Again, our following, our friends, our people who decided that they kind of liked this came along and enjoyed it, and so
What was there cake? And if there wasn't, were they disappointed?
I can't remember if there was cake. I'm,
Uh,
I don't think there was. I'm as good as certain though, and they would have been. And the thing that Hannah got legend status for on Ascension, which is saying something, was banana bread. Everybody makes it on Ascension,
uh,
but she made this banana bread, and she's always been good at banana bread, and she perfected this banana bread with these very sugary, very small bananas that had
hmm.
where the crust would just kind of caramelize, and the thing inside would be super moist, and then this
Mm.
caramelized crust, and it was a bit of a legend. This, so yeah, there would have been absolute disappointment of the lack of banana bread. That,
Yeah.
although there was always the American Burger Bar where we would get things. We would get they had all their specials, and they did them their own way. So it was like their version of a Philly cheesesteak,
Mm.
which and jalapeno poppers that they did, which were, I don't know if they were typical of what you would get in a cafe in America, but to us they were kind of normal.
Mm.
They were different to how you would get it in Glasgow, even if you ordered something like
Mm.
that. So yeah, we would have some of that, but certainly no cake would have been a disaster. I can't remember. I saw
Yeah.
the wedding there, but it definitely there for the shows in the villages in Georgetown and in
Mm.
two boats.
Yeah. So where excuse me. It's snowing really heavy right now. It's like our winter came late, and it seems to be affecting me a bit.
Last week we had that here. In fact,
Mm.
I popped in here in Argyll last week, and by the time I got down here, Fort William and Argyll are kind of further west, so there wasn't any snow lying directly here. But as I was traveling down here from Inverness and got up to Port Augustus, which is a wee bit higher altitude, it was 4 in the afternoon and had been sunny all afternoon, so it should have been all kind of a little bit melted, but it wasn't at all.
Mm.
So cold
Mm.
that it was like a picture postcard. It was just amazing.
Mm.
It's,
Well, you just travel from picture postcard to picture postcard there, don't you?
yeah, uh-huh.
One beautiful setting to the next.
It is very it's very very picturesque, and Orkney's got a very particular look. Um,
Mm.
it's yeah. Have you been up to Orkney?
No, I've never left the North American continent myself.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. We work,
Yeah.
but yeah. I mean, it's quite a contrast to mainland Scotland because the Orkney Islands are mostly very flat. So you've got these wee flat, and the further north you go. So when we've been working on these North Isles like Sandy and North Ronaldsay, they are really low down to the sea. And so you just see sky, sea, and then a kind of strip of land.
Mm.
Sandy lives up to his name. It's got these enormous beaches on it. And we were there for 2 weeks as well. And the house we were staying in had emus in the garden. Weirdest thing.
Oh, really? Not what I would have expected.
Yeah, my dad had come out like with us for the first week of that. Just wanted to see how we were getting on and see how my son was doing with his apprenticeship. And so we were on site together on Sunday for a week, and it was great fun. And my dad grew up in Australia, so having emus in the garden,
Oh, really?
yeah, it brought back all these memories. So we had all these interesting
Mm.
about camping in the outback, in near Whyalla, in South Australia, where there were flocks of wild emus at the time.
Mm.
I go to the toilet during the night
Mm.
because of all these.
Oh, that's awesome.
I don't know if they go about. Certainly, the Orkney emus seem to go to sleep at night and then come
Yeah.
up in the morning to look at you while you're having breakfast.
Hey friends, thanks so much for tuning into this episode, and many thanks to Donald for coming on again. A lot of fun to talk with him. I just want to give you a quick heads up. From here on out in the interview, there are some audio quality issues. The internet maybe was coming and going, and we realized later too that Donald the battery on Donald's phone was starting to die, and eventually it does die. So I'm excited that we were able to recover the audio at all. I was worried at first it was going to be completely lost. So I'm going to go ahead and keep everything that we captured in here. As the quality deteriorates, it kind of comes back now and again, and Donald still says some interesting stuff. So if you want to stick around and check it out. But I just want to give you that heads up. Also, I'm going to go ahead and give away a copy of History of Sleep. Actually, now I think of it, so History of Sleep is an album that Donald made with Richard Youngs a while ago under the name Good Energy. And it occurs to me now that by the time this episode goes out, Donald might have some other offerings out there available. So I guess the winner of this drawing, I will reach out to you and see what of Donald's music you would like as your prize. So if you want to support the show, remember you can go over to Patreon, or there are other ways to support too. I'm never going to forget you, Jim. And so, feel free to come on over anywhere you like. And, any way of supporting the show is great. And, really just listening and, kind of chiming in once in a while, listening, sharing it around, just that kind of stuff is, of course, super helpful. So don't get me wrong. You don't have to send money or gold bullion or unwanted instruments to me. You just can if you want to, is all, So anyway, let's see here. We have got the Cthulhu Dice Tower here, and we're going to need our current membership over on the Patreon is 13 plus gems. We're going to need at least 14 slots. I'm going to use a D20. If we roll above 14, we'll just re-roll. So let's see here who's going to win. Oh, 1. That's going to be Camille. Camille, the original supporter of the show. So thanks so much, Camille, for your support. I'll be reaching out to get you a copy of something from Donald Lindsay. Anyway, enjoy the rest of the interview, and check out the show notes for links to Donald's website and some of his social media stuff. He is actively making exciting music and cool instruments, so new stuff all the time. Thanks again, and have a lovely day or evening or weekend or whatever it is you're working on. Really appreciate you, and bye-bye. Well, Donald, I maybe there's not a direct reason for me to think of it, but I don't know if you ever saw this Beatles film, and I'm trying to remember if it was A Hard Day's Night, but there was this funny little joke scene where one of the managers is begging, I think Ringo, no, it was George Harrison, to teach him how to use an electric razor to shave. And he's like, or no, he's begging him to teach him how to use a straight razor to shave. And George is like, I can't believe you never learned how to use a straight razor. And the answer was something like, come on, please, I come from a long line of electricians. Right? It's like he'd only ever used an electric razor, right? And I mean, maybe that's why I think of it. If you come from a long line of electricians, you're part of a long line of electricians, right? But where does the interest in analog come in for you? Have you always, because clearly you're interested in tape and vinyl, etc. The mediums being important. Is that always been with you, or is that a new fascination that came on as you got older, kind of thing?
It's a new fascination, and I can exactly where the balance tipped. I was curious about it for a while, and we'd done recording before in New York, and Sam has a setup to do analog recording, all the way to the signal. But the balance tipped for me when I began going along to Attic Records in Orkney. And I noticed that Owen's setup basically is almost entirely analog, and the only thing that's digital about it is a digital hard drive that somebody has got rigged up for him, so they use that to record onto. There's no computer involved there, and no Pro Tools anywhere near that studio. But he's got some beautiful old valve mic. And fantastic, and this lovely space that got help from the guy up in Orkney setting up Orkney. If Owen had the setups for the Orkney musicians for the new radio station, and set it up in his loft, and this chap came and looked at it, and he said, "You don't really need to make this," and he told him exactly how to go about it. So he's got bits of this loft are wood paneled, parts of it are melted, and so on, and it just gives you a lovely sound. But the reel-to-reel was broken down, and so I asked him about it. I said, because I could see that and it was the pinch roller that melted. And he said, yes, I need to get one, but I'm using this hard drive just now. And I said, I know a guy in Glasgow who probably would like the roller for it. It needs a bit cleaned up because, but what happened was when I brought this pinch roller up, we then spent the evening going through 1980s Orkney folk recordings.
Oh, that's cool.
We had been listening to stuff off of his hard drive already. And difference, it sounded good enough off the hard drive. Difference, as we went on to the reel-to-reel tape, just blew me away. And I thought, Yeah. I mean, I thought, if you've got the right listening equipment, if you've got the right, it does matter. Uh,
Mm.
and so I thought I want to do a recording where I go, and I would really like to do a recording with the valve mic and go all the way through. But it'll involve cleaning up that old reel to reel. So that's another project for this year to try and get cleaned up, because what happened was we got through so many tapes and listened to all kinds of different stuff and old Ivan recordings and dance band stuff, and then no one said, "Do you want to record something?" I went through, and unfortunately, after a couple of takes, it started to wow and flutter a bit.
Hmm.
And so I think that's probably just the thing,
Hmm.
where to start with that. So I'm hoping that I can get, I mean, as luck would have it, Sam, who's the engineer at door, he also grew up in St. Margaret, Stokes, so he comes up to Orchid. And so I'm hoping to arrange a bit of a play in the studio day with Sam and Owen at some point, if they're both
Hmm.
up, to try and get the old wood fired wheel to wheel working again, do with it.
Hmm.
But Sam has a great setup there as well with Greek door, so I'll definitely back it there too.
Does that have you thought about like maybe this is just me, so feel free to throw the idea out, but I'm just curious if like going from like I'm thinking of like your optical chanter, for example, like very interesting digital components, plugged into each other, stuff like that. Like, are you imagining like bringing worlds together kind of thing, or?
Funny enough, the optical chanter is also analog. So it's got a cane read, and it's got a LED pointing up
Mm.
into a phototransistor, and I'm thinking
Hmm.
that is analog. It seems to be hot as hell when I put it through a Marshall. That's what I love about it. That,
Hmm.
as compared to the sound that you get from a Jaeger or something, this thing comes roaring out of it. Absolutely,
Hmm.
that's how it sounds. And obviously, it does everything. It is an acoustic pipe, so it's electroacoustic. Um, and what a sound! But you've got to be very careful about the choice of phototransistor, because the first phototransistor that I used with it, on paper, should have been picking up to 20 kilohertz. But I took it into three improv sessions that I used to be involved in regularly in Glasgow in the old hairdressers. And that night it was Luke Fowler, who is an artist in Glasgow, and he's very into the modular and other things besides filmmaker. Sebastian Lexer, a pianist who does free improv as well with various instruments, dithers and things. And Luke, I said to Luke, I've got this thing with me. Fancy plugging that into the modular and you could process the output. He's like, yeah, sure, give me the lead. And he plugged it in and he said, Donald, you realize this is only picking up to about 4 kilohertz? And I was like, yeah, I did think it sounded a bit, lack. Uh,
Hmm.
um, I'd only really, I'd sort of finished tinkering with it and then I'd run into the pub to play it. And I was like,
Hmm.
I did think it sounded a bit funny. Um,
Hmm.
he was like, yeah, there seems to be absolutely nothing above 4. And I was like, that figures. Um, so I went home and I took another look online, found the fastest one I could possibly get. And sure, the second then popped out. And it doesn't sound exactly like a small pipe, but you wouldn't really want it to, I don't think. It's,
No, yeah, make it its own thing. Yeah.
yeah, it sounds like itself. And yeah, but that was, I mean, he processed it then to have overtones, or whatever he did. I can't remember what he did to it. He did all kinds of things to it that night. And we just kind of went down with it. But
Hmm.
it was it was it was a matter of getting one that was the fastest one. That it was RS components I went to. It was whatever was in their catalog. The fastest one was a V shape. Um, and I used to be able to quote the speed on it when I was really into this. I remembered all the details, but it's that long since I've looked at the optical chanter from its
Mm-hmm.
perspective. But it's on the bench just now. It's on my list to
Mm.
do, but before I get round to that, I've got orders that I'm finishing at the moment.
Yeah, yeah.
Chanters. So I've got chanters and sets of pipes, and I want to have them out next week. And I'm very excited about that because that's that's it's one thing to be going around playing with myself, but as soon as I start sending out chanters and the group of people who play it starts to grow again, it gets very interesting. It's,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, I think that's really interesting, Donald, that like I really like your music. I like the music that you make, but I certainly don't understand everything that's going into it. And that's a great example where like I would have assumed if like it's like one of those things where like I wouldn't have had to carry the model in my head all the way through to the final step, but if I had carried it through, I would have assumed that at some point that optical chanter was going to have a USB-C port or something. And there's going to be some kind of like the way sound was coming was going to be digital, and so it does make me wonder, like, and I wouldn't want to mess with your head in any way, and I don't think that it would be like I'd have the power to do so anyway, but like, is part of what is cool about your music is that you're doing the things you want to do and you're not thinking to yourself, will my audience, understand? Will they get why I'm doing this? You know what I mean? Like if you were making it for me, you would have done different stuff because I wouldn't have understood what is going into your thinking. And yet, because you did it the way you did, I like it. What's that? What kind of magic is going on there,
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. I understand what you're saying because it does come from, the whole thing comes from this 3D printing space. And so
Mm,
are you going to put one of these Raspberry Pis on the top of it or whatever, an Arduino
yeah.
or however you say it. And I
Nobody knows how to say that word. Yeah, don't worry. Arduino. We all know what you mean.
haven't even gotten into all that yet. But I have thought about doing it. I've got uh, I've got a certain amount of knowledge that I can probably work it, but that's not at the moment the direction I'm going with it. And
Yeah.
coming from is more that I thought we've got electronic chanters. It's almost as if we've gone straight to the Rockstar game controller as pipers, and we don't have
Hmm.
guitar. And that's what with the electric guitar.
Interesting. Okay.
Animal, it breathes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Growls.
Yeah.
It really does. I mean, when you plug this thing in, it's hot as heck. Uh,
Yeah.
really fun to play with. And that's what I wanted from it.
Hmm.
The thing that led me to the optical was, and it was years and years ago, and I was doing this with the Highland pipes years and years ago, trying different things to pick up. And I had bought a book on it. It was Bart Hopkins' book about electronic pickups and various kinds of instrument pickups. And so I had a magnetic coil pickup. There's a guy that did that in Wales, made his own bagpipe that had a steel reed and a magnetic coil pickup.
Wow, really?
He did it. The idea I'd had years ago was to put a little bit of steel foil onto a cane reed and see if that would work. Never actually
Yeah.
got around to making that work. But I did make up a bagpipe stock, a Highland pipe stock, which had a flexible piezo in it, which I suppose was just working as a kind of microphone, uh,
Hmm.
but which did give you something of the effect. But it was terribly tinny, and so it didn't have that hotness that I was looking for. Whereas the optical, something about the way it's picking up means that it boosts the fundamental. If it's a fast enough E, then it picks up the whole of the range of overtones, and so you can EQ it. It's harder to EQ than a usual bias, though, because it moves with the note being played. Uh,
Hmm.
Fundamental. And I thought to myself, is this something about the way that the reed moves? Or is it that because you're shining the light through the reed, you're kind of getting the sound of a chanter if your ear was next to the reed? When
Hmm.
it would be a heck of a lot louder than it is
Hmm.
when you're listening from the outside, so to speak. But in any case,
Hmm.
it's a good problem. I like it because it gives it this very hot, very thick, while it's still at the same time it has all its overtones as well, and you can get all that color. Um, which that just, like I say, that's just about the right choice of receiver system, and then you can put it through a preamp. You can build a circuit. I've built circuits. I was working with an LM386 for a while, and then somebody who knew more about audio than me said, "No, you want to use this chip," but it actually doesn't need it. And particularly the chanter, but chanter and drones, you can just put the output of the photo transistor straight to the jack, and just send it, which is, so it is a very simple idea at root. It works, and I still like the idea of the steel reed. And
yeah, I mean, there's something real just metal about that, right? Like, that's kind of a pun, right? But really.
And what he said, Paddy Whetman is the guy. He made his own kind of pipes up. He wanted this thing that sounded a wee bit like, he had the sound in mind he was going for, and so he made this thing that sounds sort of like uilleann pipes, but not quite. It's a little more aggressive sounding, so somewhere between the pipes and uilleann pipes is what he was after. And it has this, and he said he made his one, and he made one or two or three of them for other people, I think it was, and then he couldn't find the right steel again. He went to all the whole find, and he couldn't find the exact gauge that he what he could find didn't work. Wasn't able to make it out of it. So they're the project. He's still somebody else. There's at least one other person who's got one and plays it. And obviously, if you've got a steel reed and it works, then that's it. You're fine. You're never gonna
right. Yeah.
all or something.
Right.
But go over with a bit of steel wool every now and again.
Yeah, that's how you clean it up.
Yeah. Maybe polish it or something.
Yeah. No, that's great.
Just dip it in oil every now and again.
Yeah. Oil your pipes in a different way, though.
Yeah, exactly, with WD-40.
Yeah. Well, it's been really delightful, Donald, and I've watched the sunset happen behind you while we've been talking, and that's been delightful too. I'm aware of the fact that I've taken more than an hour of your time right now, and so I don't want to force you to politely stay too much longer, especially where you've got stuff going on. But I also want to make sure that we cover like cool stuff that's going on. So, like, is there anything else coming up? Stuff you'd like to talk about?
Well, we've got the big Alice on 31st January, Friday 31st. So come along to that if you're listening. There, there's some people who travel in, and in Glasgow, for example, or if you're coming to the festival, come and catch us there. Anybody who can't do that, and I know even if some people are coming in for Celtic, they might have a ticket for something else that night. You will also catch Rambo House in Fife the following night, or following day, and that's not so far away from Glasgow. Other than that, watch out for the videos, and watch out for news of the albums. So I'm going to, I think I'm going to be opening up the album that I did with you for the orders. I'm still thinking of the best way to do that, but that one I'm intending to start posting about immediately after Celtic Connect, so the beginning of February.
Okay.
Watch social media for that, and for news of the pipe recordings as they go along as well. And there should also be some lovely pictures and videos of the chanters and pipes that I'll be putting out over the next week. So watch out for those as well. They are still the same generation of the design that I'm playing just now. But I think once these ones go out, it depends. I mean, I've got myself a new computer now, so that my Mac was dying with the weight of the software. It was very so I've got a new fast But I can get back into drawing again this big way. So yeah, things to watch out for. Chanters in different keys. I've got the Lindsay system chanter working now in A440. I've got it in flat. I've got it in G. I've got one in S that ended up on the soundtrack of that film as well.
That's right, down low,
large.
yeah.
Yeah, very large.
Yeah.
A bit impractical, but it works. And I also have one in A432. So
Oh,
yeah,
so you can play with the Baroque musicians,
Yeah.
huh?
yeah, it sounds good. It sounds really good. And it's, somebody said to me, "Oh, do you believe in all that stuff?" And I'm like, "Well, no, but with pipes, it's not about whether you believe in it or not. You're going to get a different drone pitch if you move different frequency." And I was just kind of I arrived at this one because I had found that sometimes during the process, chanters that I made tuned flatter. And so I had to make adjustments to try and sharpen them up. But then along the way, I noticed that in that area, and it's not always on A432, this one, sometimes it's been, I've had it going on A4, 434, 5, or 6. I'm not fussy. But in that kind of zone, the flat is slightly flatter than A. It's kind of like the slightly sharper than B flat thing with island pipes, except that where it takes into a more kind of mellow zone. And the G chanter I like a lot, but it's too flat to play in the same way. I play differently on the G chanter. Whereas to have a chanter that is A but slightly flatter than A is something that I find very, I like it. It's a good sound.
Do you feel like after playing it, it also freshens the sound of the standard pitch chanter when you come back to it? You know what I mean? Like kind of stepping away from something.
Brighter. It's
Yeah.
brighter.
Yeah.
And when I play the B flat, the B flat is all brightness to me. It's got kind of a authoritative, kind of slightly more aggressive character, which I like for some tunes. B goes past the aggression and into a kind of a sort of a very sunny brightness kind of a space. D, I always found D a little too sharp for me, but I'm thinking of going back to it because in terms of the range it gives you, a D chanter would be a really, really good chanter for playing in sessions.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, I've had one going before. And the nice thing about this chanter in D is that it goes all the way up to high B from low D, and then it goes all the way down to G below that. So that's
a lot of range.
A lot of range. And the shorter the chanter, the more easily it does the extended range.
Interesting.
Yeah,
interesting.
That's what I find. So I find the D chanter, when I've had a D chanter going, it's very amenable to playing up to B. Play further than B, but most of the time you are needing to go much further than B. But it will play very easily up to that B. And so that's something that is going to happen again. I'm going to make a D chanter and hopefully kind of nail that design down a bit more.
Yeah.
There's only been one working prototype of that in the past.
I don't know if you shared any videos or anything of it, because I know I haven't seen it around, so that's exciting to imagine for me at present.
Yep. Well, the drawing is there.
Yeah.
The drawing's there, so it's a small matter to make it real again. The one that I had, I ended up experimenting on. This is what happens. The one that I had, it was a lovely chocolate. It was a toffee brown colour with chocolate brown mounts. And it's put it home. It worked really well, but then the experimenting bit on the shoulder said drill a hole in it, and drill some holes in it, and I perfected there and then things. But in the process, I scored the prototype. Oh yeah, I can hear you now.
Donald,
good.
I don't know if you can hear me clearly still. I don't know if maybe the the internet in Orkney goes down along with the sun or what, but something has just started happening the last couple of minutes. And if I haven't lost, oh, okay, yeah, I'm not sure what all might be contributing, but there's yeah, stuff started slipping the last couple of minutes, so maybe that's a sign for us to draw to a close with the interview as well, just in case still don't lose any audio. Oh, but maybe I have lost you.